It's the Daily Dog.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daily Doug. I am thankful that you are here today. It is a Wednesday. We are continuing on this week with guest DJ Dan, my little brother, and today he has picked a song that I am quite excited to listen to. In fact, this one is not a reaction. I am not labeling it as a reaction. I know this song. I know this song well. It has been on my list for quite a long time as one of Doug's favorites. Just so happens to be one of Dan's favorites as well. So I am happy today to bring you guys the Ghost of Tom Joad. And I'm focusing this on the song and not as much the performers, because the song has become just ubiquitous in culture and has a whole bunch of different versions to it. So, but we're going to listen to a little bit of three versions today. So the Ghost of Tom Joad was written and originally recorded by Bruce Springsteen, one of my favorite American artists. This is the title track to his album of that name that was released in 1995. That album was an interesting one. It had sort of a mix of like solo tracks by Bruce and some with the E Street Band. This is one that's very minimal, and it's just Bruce, and it's just wonderful, a wonderful folk song that he has written. The character of Tom Joad, I'm sure most of y'all know this, but I will go through a little bit. The character is from the John Steinbeck novel, The Grapes of Wrath. That book was published in 1939 and helped win Steinbeck like a Pulitzer and a Nobel. So a really, really informative and illustrative fictional account of what it was like in the Great Depression, in the Dust Bowl, and people were just at their wits' end trying to survive. Like I said, it was set during the Great Depression. It follows the lives of the Joad family, who were these hardworking but poor farmers in Oklahoma dealing with the Dust Bowl, and they seek a better life. They set out from Oklahoma to California along with a whole bunch of other folks, and they're just become migrants searching for a better situation for themselves, seeking dignity, a better chance to provide for themselves and their family. Surprisingly enough, I knew that a movie was made on this classic movie, right? But the movie was made the very next year. Like, how long does it take nowadays when a book comes out to get a movie out? In this case, just 1 year. Amazing. Also in that year, 1940, the very next year, Woody Guthrie wrote his ballad of Tom Joad that was sort of inspired by this story and the movie. So when Springsteen starts writing his version, an update of the story, he sets it in the early 90s and puts out his track. So we're going to listen to a little bit of Springsteen's original recording. Then we're going to go to Rage Against the Machine and their cover of it a couple years later in 1997. And then finally, we're going to go to my favorite version of it, which is the E Street Band playing with Bruce Springsteen and Tom Morello at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 25th anniversary concert in 2009. So I've got my keyboard hooked up back here. I'm going to play along with this, and I'll see you at the keyboard. All right, y'all, I've got my AirPods in. I've got my phone over here, and we're going to be listening along to the three versions of this song, but we're going to start with Bruce Springsteen's original version. Let's take a look. A classic Bruce Springsteen harmonica, right? Just wonderful sounds.
Men walking along the railroad tracks, going someplace and there's no going back.
Intimate vocal, intimate
Highway
guitar.
patrol choppers coming up over ridge. Hot soup on a campfire in the breeze.
He's in B minor, low in his voice.
Shelter line stretching round the corner.
Goes to D,
Welcome to the new world.
down to A, stays on A.
Sleeping in the car in the southwest.
Back up to B.
Home, no job, no peace, no rest.
So that's a G chord.
Highway is alive
6 in that
tonight.
key. Back to
Nobody's
D.
kidding nobody about where
A over C sharp down to B is how I play it.
sitting down here
To the A
in
chord.
campfire,
Subtonic in this minor key.
searching for the ghost of Tom Joad. He pulls a prayer book out of his
And then he adds in just simple instrumentation, a little bit of bass, a little bit of light drums, and some just backing sounds. Sort of remind me of his Streets of Philadelphia track. But it's a wonderful, evocative little version of this song. And it won him a Grammy for contemporary folk, right? Which is interesting to think of Bruce Springsteen as a folk artist, but I think that's his true sensibility as a storyteller through music. So wonderful, mournful track that we're hearing here. Excellent.
The highway is
So
alive.
I want to go to the version by Rage Against the Machine. So this is a couple years later. This is a live performance of theirs. Already doesn't remind me of the original. That's D. Right?
There was along a railroad track. He's going someplace and there's no turning back.
I'm just using some pentatonics underneath this.
Highway patrol chopper coming up
B,
over the
E, G,
ridge.
A, C.
Man sleeps by a campfire
It's just
under
a
the bridge.
repetitive riff over the top of just power D. I'm sure they're in drop D tuning and just putting this out. It's just one chord,
Welcome to the new world order.
but it's still in the true like Guthrie tradition of speaking truth to power, using your musical language and your sensibility to reach as many people as you possibly can, being true to yourself, but also being true to the injustices happening around the world. These guys are just rocking it out, and the people are really connecting with it. It's really powerful.
Nobody's fooling nobody as to where it goes. I'm sitting down here in the campfire light, searching for the ghost of Tom Joad.
I wouldn't really consider it a true cover in the traditional sense of a cover song, because it's not in the same key. It does not use the same harmonic progressions. It does not use the same melody. It does not use the same metrical structure. This is completely in 4/4. It doesn't have any of those 3 chord measures that Bruce put in.
He's waiting for the time when the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And the cardboard box need to underpack. With a one-way ticket to the promised land.
I think in these folk song style renditions of songs where you're trying to make
You sleeping on a pillow.
where you're trying to make the music really speak, you're trying to make the lyrics push out more than anything, the harmonic progression becomes secondary, and it can be rather simplistic. It can be just one chord, right? In Bruce's case, it's 4 chords, but they're very simple and triadic in the way that they operate. And so once you get that palette down, then the lyrics can come to the forefront, and that's the entire point, at least from this point of view, to get the message of this song out. Really cool stuff. But my favorite version of this, y'all, has to be the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 25th anniversary version, where Morello plays it with the E Street Band. This gives you a great sense of the pliability of this wonderful little song. So Tom Morello is joining the E Street Band here. He joined them on some of their tours before this.
Men walking along the railroad tracks.
So this performance has sort of been led up to
Gone someplace there's no going back.
by his involvement
Highway
with
patrol
the band in
choppers come
previous
up over the
iterations.
ridge. Hot soup on a campfire under the bridge.
Max back there being a rock, as he
Shelter
always
line
is. I
stretching
love watching
around the
Max
corner.
drum. He's a true pro back there.
Welcome to the new world order.
Now,
Families sleeping in their cars in the Southwest.
it's back to Bruce's version, but he's moved it up an entire
no
perfect
home,
fourth.
no job, no
He's not in
peace,
B
no
minor
rest.
anymore. He's up in E minor.
Well, the highway is alive tonight.
So it gets him up in his range
Nobody's kidding
rather
nobody
drastically
about
from where he was
goes.
before. It takes on an entirely different
I'm
intensity
sitting down here
because
in
of
the
where the
campfire
vocal
light,
lies in his range.
searching for the ghost of Tom Joad.
There's a E.
He pulls a prayer book out of his
Same progression.
sleeping bag.
One chord, up to 3,
Preacher lights up a butt and
Down to
takes
7.
a drag. Waiting for the last shall be
Stays
first
on
and the
7.
first shall be last. In a cardboard box deep in
7,
the
1, 3,
pan.
and 4.
You got a one-way ticket to the promised land.
So 2 measures of 4,
You
then
got a hole in your
2,
belly and a gun
3,
in your hand.
back to 4.
Sleeping on a
2 measures of
pillow
4.
solid rock. Bathing in the city's aqueduct.
Goes down to C. 6 chord,
Where it's headed, everybody knows.
down to 1.
I'm sitting down here in the campfire light, waiting on the ghost of Tom Joad.
Bruce normally gets the first solo, and now they're soloing here over the verse progression. Morello has such a fascinating way of approaching his instrument and doing solos. The way that he moves on stage is uniquely him. Now this is over the chorus progression that they're soloing. And the original version wasn't really built for solos, it's just a folk song, but in this arena setting, they expanded to include these really emotive solos. Max back there, keeping time with his ghost
Now
strokes,
Tom said,
and just go right to that little bit. I
"Mom,
love this
wherever
part.
there's a cop beating a guy,
The famous discourse
wherever a
from Tom Joad,
hungry
right?
newborn baby cries, where there's a fight against the blood and hatred in the air. Look for me, Mom, I'll be there."
Wherever somebody's fighting for a place to stand, for a decent job or a helping hand, wherever somebody's struggling to be free, look in their eyes, Ma, you'll see me.
Awesome.
Well, the highway is alive tonight.
The highway is alive.
Where it's headed, everybody knows.
everybody knows that it's going to be just crap, but still we come back and we show up and we do our best. I think that's the Ghost that we're looking for. Watch this. So they do this one more time with the chorus, and I think it goes into my favorite solo by Morello in this piece, in this particular performance. Awesome. Now, I want to go back and show you a little bit of how that solo actually was put together. Let me see if I can back up a little bit. You gotta hear that solo again. I want to show you why I think it's so cool. It's just one time through the progression. But here's what he ends up doing. They're gonna go to C, right? And he ends up that's the major seventh of that chord. So he ends up going to the high note, and over that chord is the seventh, the major seventh of that chord. It's a perfect fifth above the third, right? And then he goes, the next chord that he lands on is E minor, and he hits the F sharp, which is the ninth of that chord. Instead of a perfect fifth above the third, now it's a perfect fifth above the fifth, right? Right? And then he goes this yellow. Now that's interesting. It's a D chord, and that G, that top note that he's playing in his solo, is not in the D major chord. But if he did the fifth above the third, and then he went to the fifth above the fifth, when he gets to here, he'll do the fifth above the seventh. And it's just this extended, it's a fourth, right? But it's like the 11th, so root, third, fifth, seventh, ninth, 11th, if you put all of them together. And he's just doing G to D. It's dissonant a little bit, but when it goes to back to the E minor chord and that G's in the chord, it just resolves and makes it all the better. So here's how it goes.
With the Ghost of Tom Joad.
Now, C major 7, E minor 9, G's and D's over D chord. Then he just goes off and does his thing, using his harmonics and his flair of showmanship. It's right there, right? There are a lot of notes that he's using that are not technically in the chords. In this case, it doesn't really matter. Because we've got the harmonies, we've got the progression set in ourselves as we're listening to it. And that allows us to then use that as the bass palette, and then we can react to what's layered on top of it. Wonderful stuff. of my favorites. One of my absolute favorites. This really is one of my favorites, y'all. I hope that you enjoyed it and it spoke to you as much as it speaks to me. I mean, this song, focusing on the ghost of Tom Joad, it took me a while to really sort of figure out what that meant to me. In the story, in the original story, Tom is a very flawed person. And at the beginning, he's kind of hard to root for, but he becomes one of these sort of anti-heroes that you notice just how much humanity and drive and compassion are just an innate part of him, and you want to root for him. He goes on this tremendous personal journey, and he starts off just mired and sort of centered on whatever is happening to him, like to himself. He's self-centered. He becomes a leader of his family, and then he goes on to sort of increase his sphere of loyalty and empathy until he kind of connects with the entire world as his extended family. And like I said, the compassion and humanity of this guy are just sort of baked into the character, and they end up manifesting themselves in optimism despite all the crap that's happened to them, whether it's just the result of a natural disaster or just a system of injustice that keeps them from truly realizing his future, his goals, and his family's goals as well. And it's a courage in a character that I think is what they're talking about. I'm sitting down here in the campfire light with the ghost of Tom Joad. Even amidst struggle and pain and just a recognition of all of this injustice that is happening, we're still going to show up, and we're going to do the best we can, and we're going to speak truth to power, and we're going to get in good trouble, y'all. Like my good friend John Lewis said. Right? Got my John Lewis shirt on today. I think that's what they're talking about. And in the truest tradition of folk singers, of activism through our art, Woody Guthrie was a pioneer in that space. And I think Springsteen is one of the direct descendants of that tradition. And so is Tom Morello and Rage Against the Machine and a whole bunch of other folks. That's why I like Jackson Browne so much, right? It just speaks to me in that artistic way. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. The Ghost of Tom Joad, there are many other versions of this available. So if you like the song and you want to see what other people have done with it, have a party and go watch as many versions as you want. But for today, that's going to be it. And thanks to DJ Dan for picking this song. I've been waiting to do this one for a long time. So I'm happy to have shared it with you. Thanks for being with me today, everybody. We will see you next time on another edition of The Daily Doug.